Hello, listeners, and welcome to a new episode of Business Compact, the podcast for founders, seasoned business owners, or everybody else who is interested in learning about the world of international business. In each episode, we will explore topics related to the creation, growth, and globalization of businesses, from founding challenges to international growth opportunities. Our guests will share their insights, personal opinions, and lessons learned along the way, inspiring you to take a closer look at each individual discussed topic. My name is Tobias Kerkhoff, and I'm the General Manager for Internationalization at WannaBe International Business and your host for this episode. I hope you enjoy the upcoming conversation, and as always, if you have any comments, need support for your international business, or want to be on this podcast as a guest too, you're welcome to contact me under my email shown at the beginning of this episode. Finally, of course, feel free to subscribe to this podcast and our newsletter. Today, we are going to talk about one of the greatest profiteers of the nearshoring boom in the world economy, a country with 31 states plus the capital city area with more than 22 million inhabitants, considering the whole metro area population. By the way, an incredible number for most people here in Germany. The country is well known for its spicy food, traditional music, the Day of the Dead, and of course a lot of cultural and historical variety. Just think of the Maya and Aztec history. But I'm sure that my guest can give you way more insights about Mexico. Welcome, Enrique. Great to have you on our podcast.
Thank you very much, Tobias. Thank you for inviting me to share some information about Mexico. Nice to be here with you.
Let's start with an introduction about your professional background and your consulting company.
Very cool. Yeah. Well, Enrique Duarte. I'm the director of EDMX Consulting. Basically, I bring over a decade of diverse experience in cross-functional. I accomplished civil engineering. I started with topics related to construction management. I've been also participating in public services. I worked for the government in Sonora, where I come from. I was a director of planification and projects of public works. Right now, I'm more focused on business consulting. My journey led me to establish the EDMX Consulting in 2021. So it's pretty young still, basically driven by a passion to assist foreign companies in successfully navigating the Mexican market. I mean, Mexico has a lot of things to offer in terms of free trade agreements, in terms of interest in attracting foreign direct investment. It has a lot of potential and a lot of situations in which establishing in Mexico can help businesses to be more competitive. Basically, my mission or our mission is to simplify the complex process to entering the Mexican market. I mean, like I said, Mexico might be maybe in the top 5 countries with the best free trade agreements and the most agreements with the most countries, but it's also in the top 5 countries with the more complex bureaucratic systems.
Thanks for giving our listeners an overview about yourself. Historically, international relations between the United States and Mexico have not always been easy. I'd like to call it a mixture between conflict and cooperation. Although Mexico and North America could not be geographically any closer, intercultural differences must be taken into consideration. Could you please name us 2 or 3 examples which highlight these intercultural differences, not only when it comes to business?
Definitely. I mean, the relationship between Mexico and the US, I'd say it's a complex relationship, especially because of the cultural differences. I mean, there's a different language, so we obviously have even different communication styles. I'd say like in Mexico, communication sometimes tends to be more indirect with more high context. It's a difference between Spanish and English. I mean, Spanish being like a more of a romantic language, let's say. There are also like nonverbal cues, and the context of the conversation might take a big role. I would say also the perception of time, the concept of time here in Mexico is more fluid, like with a more flexible approach to schedules and deadlines. I'll say that'll be another difference. Specifically, when you relate it with time management, also another cultural difference, I'll say that Mexican businesses are structured more hierarchical. There's a clear respect for authority and seniority. Whether I would say in more modern companies or US companies, it's more of a linear way, like not that hierarchical.
Very clear examples, and I'm sure you could have named many more. As already mentioned in my introduction, Mexico is one of the greatest profiteers of the nearshoring boom in the world economy. Over the last 2 or 3 years, maybe even longer, nearshoring has become a buzzword, and yet not everybody is familiar with this term. Could you please explain this in more details based on the Mexican economy?
Nearshoring, it's like you said, it's a very new word. It's trending right now. I would say it started trending about 2020 when I was thinking about this model of business. A lot of companies were producing or manufacturing in China. There's when 2020 with the pandemic, a lot of companies decided to start diversifying their supply chain. I would say that there's when the nearshoring word started booming. So instead of producing in a very far region, they decided to cut the distance. In the context of the Mexican economy, nearshoring has been particularly impactful due to the strategic location. I would say that nearshoring is a word used for a US company. Obviously, a company from China that decides to open a subsidiary in Mexico is not doing nearshoring, but it's something that companies are also very attracted to right now. I would say companies from overseas are looking at Mexico as a potential partner to diversify their supply chain, even though the US and Canada is the biggest market. Another thing that there was manufacturing base and competitive labor costs in Mexico also are very interesting for US and Canadian companies and also overseas companies. Like I said, nearshoring is a word used more for a US or Canadian company rather from an overseas.
Thanks for your explanation. If you look up a definition of nearshoring, most of the times it's similar or connected to the transfer or outsourcing of certain business activities or operations to another country that is located nearby. And of course, you as a business owner expect benefits from this action. So Mexico is booming without any doubt, not only because of the mentioned nearshoring trend. In my opinion, the country is the winner of the US geopolitical tensions with China. In the last year, your country achieved its all-time best result in terms of FDI, with more than $36 billion, mostly from the United States, but also from Spain, Japan, and Germany. What are the key factors which explain this success story?
I would say definitely the free trade agreements, and one of them specifically the USMCA FTA provides a very good interest in the market. The US is the largest market. There's no doubt. So when you manufacture in Mexico, you take the benefits of that agreement, and you can export to the US and to Canada with no extra tariffs. Or well, there are some tariffs, but depending on the product, but it's a win-win situation. Also, the strategic location, let's say, like I said before, that the US is the biggest market. So being near to that biggest market and also having a very good free trade agreement is definitely another key factor. The competitive labor cost, I mean, combined with the skilled workforce here in Mexico, that makes a very big attractive destination. Right now, we are in a time where at least 27% are between 25 to 35 years old. So there's been growing the pool of educated workers. There's a lot of engineers. I would say that's another advantage combined with the labor cost. And also the growing economy. I mean, there's a stable and growing economy bolstered by reforms in various sectors, including energy, telecommunications, and that's increasing a lot of confidence in the investors.
I totally agree, but it's not only the success of the NAFTA. I think on the whole, we are talking about 13 free trade agreements, also with the European Union. And as you mentioned, the country has a large, diverse economy in combination with high skilled and affordable workforce. There are many more reasons, but due to our time limitation, I'd like to address the next question. As a result of the complex global value chains and the rising geopolitical conflicts, another term was coined, friendshoring, which happens, according to The Economist, when a government pushes businesses to restructure supply chains, shifting production away from geopolitical rivals to friendly powers. Whether this is always so realistic in practice remains to be seen. A prime example could certainly be the American economy. Do you think that friendshoring would be an option between the United States and Mexico, or is this already a reality?
Friendshoring is not just an option, but a foregoing reality between the United States and Mexico, definitely. The geopolitical landscape and shared economic interests have fostered a shift toward building more resilient supply chains. That's a reality. This trend is supported by the MCI, which is, I would say, the most important free trade agreement But like you said before, there are a lot more, like the Trans-Pacific, which is another very good agreement. This definitely strengthens the trade relationships and promotes economic integration, highlights the strategic partnership, and reduce the dependency and the geopolitical rivals.
Totally makes sense to me. In the case of the US and Mexico, it's a perfect match right now. But again, whether this is always so realistic in practice on a global scale remains to be seen. So, one thing Mexico and Germany have in common is the dependency, or let's say preference, for the automotive industry. Nowadays, all German premium players have their production plant in Mexico, BMW in San Luis Potosí, Mercedes in Aguascalientes, and Volkswagen in San Jose Chiapa and Puebla. Besides, the Volkswagen Beetle was produced in Mexico for 50 years until 2004. Apart from the automotive industry, what other sectors play a crucial role for the Mexican economy?
Mexico right now is a significant hub for the manufacturing of electronic goods, from home appliances to sophisticated computer components and telecom. Actually, the latest news are that there's a lot of investment being attracted related to building and manufacturing the semiconductors. That's something very interesting, like the semiconductor chip manufacturing, being Mexico, like having manufacturing companies interested in investing in that type of product is something very interesting, and that's something that we should keep track of. Also, for example, the aerospace industry, I would say it's another sector that is vital here in Mexico. Another topic that has a lot of relation with Germany is energy. I mean, Mexico's commitment to renewable energy has been growing a lot. There's a significant investment in solar and wind energy, but also there's a very big bet into green hydrogen, which and even Germany Dutch investment in terms of green hydrogen here in Mexico. Just to say a few, I mean, we could continue talking about this, but I'd say that those would be like the most significant.
Thanks for sharing these insights with our listeners. I'd also like to add some more industries like agricultural industry, mining, and tourism, of course. As you can see, this is exactly what I meant when I described Mexico some minutes ago as a large and diverse economy. According to my own experience, more and more European companies are also considering a market entry to Mexico, either due to the proximity to the US market or the affordable energy and labor costs. What are your recent experiences as an advisor for foreign companies?
Well, my experience advising these companies has underscored the strategic benefits Mexico offers, not just as a getaway to the US, but a vibrant market that it is. Usually, these companies appreciate the comprehensive support of EDMX Consulting, from market entry strategies to operational setup and compliance navigation. I would say those are the main reasons.
Okay, on the one hand, I'm sure you're still more focused on US companies arriving in Mexico, which is totally understandable. But I think over the time, more and more European companies are also coming to Mexico, and you are aware of these increased interest from European companies. Last question. Still today, there exist unnecessary prejudices against Mexico, mostly the same I discussed already on the last episode about doing business in Colombia. Nevertheless, how do you convince companies of investing in Mexico?
Well, usually companies ask for information and they are already very interested in getting into Mexico. But in terms of convincing companies to invest, it involves addressing the misconceptions head on, showcasing the country's robust legal and business frameworks, also highlighting success stories and foreign investment. There are a lot of very big companies, multinational companies that are taking the advantage Mexico has to offer, like the free trade agreements. But we focus more on smaller companies that would like to be more competitive and would like to also take these advantages. That's how we usually work with them, like starting small and then growing together. We obviously help in everything and we explain from everything related to potential challenges. We've successfully persuaded many companies to view Mexico not through the lens of outdated stereotypes, but as a land of opportunity and growth.
Very convincing answer. Unfortunately, we have come to the end of today's episode. Thanks, Enrique, for this interesting conversation about your home country. I think we've addressed a lot of topics today within a short time, and all the best for you and your next projects.
Thank you very much, Tobias, and thank you for the invitation again. It's a pleasure to be here with you.